Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Dio, what's poppin'?
Fresh back from a trip to Boise, Idaho.
Because Idaho.
Idaho? What you talking about?
I know. That was
What
a
you
joke.
talking about, Willis?
That's
Idaho,
that's-
Idaho. Potatoes. Boise State, the blue field, the Smurf uniforms.
What'd you do out there?
Went and saw a football game.
Who?
Got to watch UCF.
They
yes.
lost, bro.
They didn't, bro.
They didn't? I
No.
wouldn't know.
They threw up over 600 yards of offense. They had trouble getting into the end zone.
Shout out Jared Zabransky, cover athlete of NCAA something, just because of the Statue of Liberty play with none other than Doug Hamster. What's his name? Doug Martin.
Wow.
I know my
You
shit.
remember that.
I
That's
know
from
my
your EA days,
Yeah.
huh?
I know football. I just act dumb.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, no, we went out there. My wife went out there. My daughter went out there. My best friend, his family, hung out with Travis Dyson. Shout out to Travis. He's a fellow CMB. He and his wife, Tiffany, came out and met us. What a gorgeous part of the country.
Yeah, I know.
Like 8 hours away from Seattle by car. I think 30 minutes away from the Oregon border.
That's
4 hours to get to Yellowstone.
Best kept secret.
I don't know if it's much of a secret. It's one of the fastest growing cities in America. They call it the Gem State.
Gem, like GYM.
Like GEM, like gemstones.
Makes
And
sense.
it's definitely a gem of a city. But
You said the people out there are nice.
people are super nice.
Because you said they're just getting Wi-Fi out there now, so that's
You're
why
going
it's-
to a football game like, oh gosh, guys, best of luck to you. Hope the boys have fun.
Do they have an accent?
I have no idea. No, I had an accent. I had an accent right there just doing it. No, it was a phenomenal time. Lots of breweries, gorgeous weather. They have the river flowing right through it.
What's the demographic? Young people, older people?
I don't know. Half of California now lives there.
Really?
Like the Californians who didn't go to Austin, they all went to Boise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Boise, B-O-Y-S-E-E. That's how it's pronounced. It's not Boise. It's Boise.
Like Boise.
Boise, Idaho. Yep. So had a great time. Yes, my team came out victorious. It was a close game. Colton Boomer dropped a bomb. Last minute, 2 seconds to go. Hits a field goal. We win. Game over. It should not have been that close, but it did. It was. It was that close, but we did win.
Well, as a level 12 booster, Dustin, I'm sure you have plenty of opportunities to provide your feedback on how the coaching staff can improve on the output.
Could you believe I allegedly may have been sitting close to the field, and when the game wasn't going my way, I allegedly, possibly would have yelled at the AD, like, Terry, what the hell's going on, bro?
Did he look back at you?
He shrugged his shoulders, dropped his head, and started pacing, which is what I would have been doing if I was in his shoes, because the outcome of the game wasn't going our way. Not that he could do anything about it. Not that my negativity would do anything about it. But
he could just inject more money into the school. You better work that transfer portal.
it doesn't work that way when you're in the middle of the game. You do that like
Just Antonio Brown him, get rid of players on the field. Third down, get out. I don't give a shit. You're off my team. I don't give a damn. Bring a new guy in.
oh, good times, good times.
Yeah.
So it's not good times.
I don't know.
Lawsuits. Lawsuits are never, ever fun. Even when you're the one doing the suing, they're not fun. They're
Really?
timely. They're costly. There's no guarantees.
You only pay if you
and
win.
they're stressful.
You only pay if you win. If we win, you only pay, right? That's how it goes.
Certain lawsuits, yeah. If you work for like a personal injury attorney and you're trying to sue over slip and fall, call.
Really? Yeah.
Dog bite, call.
Yeah, we got a lot of those. If you just drive down I-4, you can't miss them.
Yes.
Or really anywhere in Florida,
Yeah,
to be
so
honest
no,
with you.
these are like large class action suits. These are like
For what?
really rough ones. Well, there's 3 right now where consumers, let's think homeowners who listed and sold their home, who in order to market and advertise their home, they put it into the multiple listing service, the MLS. Which there really isn't much of a competition for. I'm sure there's going to be some people that raise their hands like, well, there's other services, yes, but whatever service it is, if you're in a certain market, that's the one that every real estate agent uses, and that's the one that Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com API into, and that's how when you do an internet search for homes for sale, it all kind of comes through this one service. And if I'm listing my home and I'm using a licensed real estate agent, let's say a realtor, and I want my home to be in this database of homes for sale that are searchable, then I'm basically putting it into like a multiple listing service.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somewhere along the way, someone didn't like the fact, and by the way, real estate has worked this way for decades, like 100 plus years. This is kind of how it's always worked. But the way that it's always worked and what's currently being threatened to be disrupted is the way it currently works, John, is you go to list your house, you sit down with a realtor, unless you're going to sell it by
FSBO.
Yeah, for sale by owner. Then sure, you can try to put a sign in the yard, put an ad in the newspaper if you really want to date yourself, put it up on Facebook Marketplace if you want to be a little bit more like current. Sure, you can try to sell your home on your own. You can go to Office Depot or one of those type stores and you can buy a contract, fill in the blank, look it up on YouTube. Yeah, you 100% can do that. Most people don't. Most people use a licensed real estate agent or a realtor. And nonetheless, the way that's always worked is if I wanted my listing to be in that system, I had to agree to pay a certain commission. And of that commission, 6%, 5%, 4%, whatever I negotiated, which by the way, doesn't have to be 6%, but whatever, it could be 7%, right? Maybe you need to pay a little bit more to get the right service for your particular property. But let's just use the rule of thumb was always 6% is what you paid. Then typically 3% would go to the person who brought the buyer. We call them the buyer's agent. And 3% would go to the listing agent. Mm-hmm. So I, as the seller, agreed to pay 6%. And then it had to be marketed and advertised a certain way within that MLS, multiple listing service, at which point it was just guaranteed that whoever brought the buyer would get X in commission, regardless of how much work or value I, as the seller, felt like they brought to the transaction. That's just what I had to agree to. And you have to understand, before I talk about these lawsuits, there really isn't much competition for the multiple listing service, right? Think about if I wanted to go buy some brand new cleats. There's probably 3 or 4 different retail stores I can go to, plus a whole bunch of online stores. And then when it comes to the brand I want, well, I can buy Under Armour, I can buy Adidas. I would never do that, but I could. I could buy Nike, probably the direction I'm going to go, plus all the other knockoff unbrands that I'm not that familiar with. I can go purchase their cleats. When it comes to listing my home for sale, there's really not multiple listing services. Mm-hmm. There's just the one that my market uses, at which point if I want to play that game, I have to play by the rules that are written by them, which their rules are I'm going to agree to pay a certain commission up front when I sign that listing agreement with my agent who's representing me, and a portion of that commission is going to have to go to whoever's representing the buyer. All of that is predetermined and pre-negotiated. Well, a few individuals and a whole bunch of attorneys got together and they said, you know what? That's not right. We're going to sue you. We're going to sue NAR, National Association of Realtors. We're going to sue these particular brokerages. We're going to sue these particular multiple listing services. And by the way, MLS, I think, is a brand name, kind of like Vaseline is Kleenex, a brand name. Like Kleenex is a brand name. All right, so but there's others that are similar to MLS that offer the same type of database, housing, marketability of properties for sale.
So MLS is like a private entity. They're not like a government run.
No, they are not government run at all.
Are they like a publicly traded thing? Like
I don't know. I don't know if any of them are publicly traded or maybe they're owned by a publicly traded parent. I haven't.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. I'm not that astute to the background of the real estate industry, the behind the scenes.
But basically, gotcha.
Yeah, but all this is going on. So this right now, there are 3 lawsuits that I believe all 3 have made class action status. That's like the big one, right? When you watch movies like Aaron Brockovich, those are typically class action or collective action lawsuits. It's a bunch of people getting together, putting their name behind one particular lawsuit saying, yep, I was wronged. Yep, I was financially damaged. Yep, this wasn't fair. I want my...
Give me money.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a money grab. Typically only one person's getting paid. That's the attorneys. But it's them saying, yeah, I was damaged and I want you to repay me for my loss.
Sounds
whatever.
Like,
for my loss.
Yeah,
from my loss. Right? Repay me for my loss. And what's really interesting is they're doing this under the Sherman Antitrust Act. Do you even guess what year? Guess what year?
1964.
Wrong. You were wrong at 19.
2004.
You got colder, homie.
1708.
I mean, the United States wasn't even formed until 1776, John.
Shit.
So I can't imagine there was a Supreme Court or even a court system in place. Go with an 18.
2018. 1890.
Oh, yeah.
1890.
1890. Yeah. 1890.
91.
90. 1890. That'll wait, John. Ding, 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 ding. You got it. Yeah.
History, my
So
ass.
the Sherman Antitrust Act, which went into law in the 1890s, is essentially, I'm going to paraphrase here, the world according to Dustin Doan, the way that it makes sense to me, basically is like the anti-monopoly, right? It's the if this prevents open competition in a free market, then it is in violation, and we should do something about it. Well, somewhere along the lines, one particular seller was like, this isn't right. I don't like this. Talked to an attorney who said, I agree with you. They got a bunch of other plaintiffs. And they all said, yeah, we too were not happy with the fact that we agreed to pay X amount of commission to sell our home. And of that X amount, a Y amount, a smaller amount, had to go to the buyer's agent.
Was this really like people making this hissy fit, or was it like the attorneys being like, "Hey, I think you have an opportunity here to sue the shit out of the MLS. Come holler at me."
Yeah, I have no idea. I've not sat down and had that conversation with the law firms or the plaintiffs themselves.
God.
I would welcome that opportunity to learn more.
So people are suing the fact that they upload their house to an internet service and they're bitching about something?
Well, what they're bitching about is that they don't think that they should have to pay any commission to the buyer's agent. And that's really what we have to dive deep into.
Okay, let's get
What does the world look like if we undid 100 years of precedent? Hey, kids, this is the way that we're going to do it. And it's like, nope, not anymore. Right? There goes Blockbuster.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah.
There goes the phone book.
Right.
There goes travel agencies. Do you want to continue?
I think that was top 3 right there.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's going to be something that we all have to watch. Now, this could play out in 7 months. It could play out over 7 years.
How long has this been in the works? I'm sure this is something that
I
people
started
have
hearing
flirted
about
with.
this lawsuit at the beginning of this year. Right, beginning of this year. In fact, a friend of mine, shout out to Chris Wolf in Ormond Beach, Florida.
Shout out Chris Wolf, top producer.
Mega producer and another UCF fan. But yeah, Wolf had hit me up. He was like, Dio, what do you know about this? And I guess he had one of his agents reaching out to him saying, WTF, is this going to change the way that realtors operate? And the answer is maybe. It depends. Let's see. It's something we're going to want to watch. Like, what happens if all of a sudden you, John Coleman, are a buyer? One of the biggest benefits a home buyer has right now is that they don't, quote unquote, pay for representation. Meaning, when you as a realtor help me as a buyer go under contract, the seller has already agreed to pay X commission to me. That's my reward for bringing that buyer to you, the seller. This is what the lawsuit's all about. Well, one would argue, and I think rightfully argue, that, well, if the buyers aren't having to pay the realtor for the representation, that's more money that they can use towards down payment and closing costs. That's more buyers that we can attract, because if you all of a sudden had to not only come up with your 3 to 5% down, plus another 3 to 5% for closing costs, plus another 1, 2, or 3% to pay for your realtor's commission, all of a sudden you're like, yo, I ain't got that. Like, I can come up with 3 or 3.5% down payment. I can get my dad to gift me the 3.5% needed for closing costs. I can't come up with an extra 5 or 10 grand commission to pay my realtor. So we could potentially have less home buyers. But this is what the lawsuit is basically alleging, or what they're pushing for. They're like, look, as a seller, I'm going to call the agent. I'm going to negotiate what I'm willing to pay that agent to list my home. I'm not paying any Tom, Dick, or Harry, Mary, Catherine, or Susie for bringing the buyer my way. No. Like, if they want compensation, they should get the compensation from the buyer.
Do you think that this litigation is being brought because they really want like change and is for the best of like the purchaser, or is it just like a money grab? Do you think they really care about making positive change in the industry?
Yo, I'm gonna act like I'm like Dak Prescott and I'm being interviewed, and I didn't like that question. So I'm just going to talk about all the preparation that we have done, how the team is ready to go out there and work hard and bring a win home for all of the Cowboys fans throughout the country.
That's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking me to speculate, John. You're like asking me to like put
as
words
someone who doesn't know, that's what I hear. I hear people like, was anyone hurt? Did the bridge fall on people? No. People are just complaining about something, and to me, it just sounds like lawyers being lawyers.
I mean, is there an ulterior motive? Man, it wouldn't shock me if there was. You know, like, is there a benefit for the person who's suing that maybe they have some similar business model that now is going to be the way of the future. So it's less about them getting the money grab as it was. The money grab is going to be when they take advantage of the laws changing and they're in position to take advantage of those new way of doing things. Yes, there's typically I've found in life there's always an ulterior motive.
And that's
like
what,
anything altruistic. Is it really? Is it really?
No.
Like, are you really that altruistic, or were you trying to gain something in return for yourself?
Well, since you've been in this house, it's always been MLS, right? There hasn't been like
I've only known MLS, and have learned there are other similar.
Correct.
So like MLS doesn't have 100% market share.
It's like
right?
90 something.
They may be in like these 75 markets, and there's a similar service in these 13 markets and a similar one, but there aren't like 3 or 4 all competing for the same listings in the market of Charlotte or in the market of Dallas. There's one, right? There's one. If you want to list your house, you're going to put it in there. And when you put it in there, they're going to tell you that you're going to pay X in commission in total, at which point Z goes to the listing agent, Y goes to the buyer. It doesn't have to be, based on my understanding and my experience, it doesn't have to be 50-50. I could choose to list my home for 5%, at which point my listing agent kept 3 and we gave 2 to the buyer's agent. Or I could have listed it for 1% to my listing agent and 3% to the buyer's agent, 4% total. Like, all of that can be pre-negotiated, but whatever I state up front I'm going to do, I have to do. Regardless if this particular agent who brought the buyer did a good job, whether or not they were easy to work with, it didn't matter. It was like already advertised, bring me a buyer, we'll pay you X in commission. And this is what's being argued as going against the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. It's like, no, you can't do that. It's going to be on the buyer to pay that commission. And it's funny to listen to people like argue back and forth, because one person would be like, well, if the listing was only going to be at 3% because the seller was only going to be compensating the listing agent, then that's just more savings that can be passed to the buyer. Bullshit. Come on. I feel like that reel of that little kid that everyone's seen. He's sitting in the back of his car. His mom's driving. He's in like his little booster seat. He's like, bullshit. Bullshit. You got to look it up if you haven't. It's on Instagram. It's probably way too old and uncool to be on TikTok, but it's definitely on Instagram. No way. Not in today's market. If I am a seller, I want top dollar for my house.
Give me that.
Period. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, if I would have sold it at 400 minus 6%, but now I'm only doing 3%, I guess I can drop the price down to $388,000 because that's 3% off, and I'm still netting the same. No. If the home's going to sell for 400, I'm selling for 400. Whether I pay 6% in commission or 3%, I want that. So then you have to ask yourself, well, will homes sell for as much money if there's less buyers out there? Because now these millennials who are sitting on the sidelines already having a hard time affording homes, now their costs just went up by 1%, 2%, or 3%. Like, that's another thought. Then this thought comes in, well, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and VA, currently I can't finance in the cost of my realtor's commission. But if this changes, if these lawsuits are ruled in favor for the plaintiff and not the defendant, is that going to change the way that the Fannie, Freddie underwriting guidelines and rules are written? Right now, let's say FHA allows the seller to contribute 6% towards the buyer's closing costs. VA just states it has to be standard and customary. Some people think, oh, the rule's 4%. No, it's not. 4% is for seller concessions. When it comes to contributions towards closing costs, it can be unlimited as long as it's common and customary for the marketplace. Conventional conforming has a sliding scale. Put this much money down, it's 3%. Put this much money down, it's 6%. Put even more money down, it's 9%, except for when it's an investment property, then you're stuck at 2%. But what happens if all of a sudden the buyer's being asked to pay for their own agent's commission? At which point, maybe the only way to help a buyer get into a home is to have the seller pay the commission, but now it has to be negotiated. Right now, it's just understood because that's how it's listed in the MLS. But all of a sudden, if it's illegal to do that, now it's like, well, buyers must come represented and they have to pay for their buyer's agent's commission. But the buyer doesn't have enough money for down payment, closing costs, and commission. Could I maybe negotiate with the seller to cover my closing costs and my agent's commission? Well, what if combined those two numbers are more than 3% of the sales price? Now does Fannie and Freddie have to change what they deem allowable for seller-paid commissions or for seller-paid closing costs? And then here's the big one. What does this do to the LO realtor relationship?
It burns it.
I don't know. Does it?
Probably.
I've heard that, John. I've heard someone make that statement.
Probably.
That the minute the consumer has to pay out of their pocket for their realtor's commission, are they then less likely to go to the realtor first? Are they then more likely to go unrepresented, which that could be a bad thing? Like, why would you ever want to go unrepresented?
Because I watched a YouTube video once.
Nothing in my life has been easier when I went at it alone. Like, nothing has. No. And yes, it's not like the old days when I needed a realtor to actually see what homes were on the market. You are correct, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. The internet age allows me to look at homes that are for sale without the need of a realtor. But I have questions. And yes, I can look up some basic research online on homes. But at the same time, I have questions. I don't buy a house a month every single month. I may buy a house once every 7 years. I need someone to help me navigate the process. I need someone to help me coordinate all of the steps from my inspection to my walkthrough. I need someone who hopefully has mastered negotiating, who has relationships in the market, and we can leverage those relationships to get the best deal possible. Like, I still need to be represented, and I'm a firm believer in that. Look, I'm not a realtor, never have been, and I don't think I ever want to be. But I would tell you, if I'm buying and selling a home, I'm going to use a realtor. I just am. I'm that way with most things that I'm going to do. I want to find an expert, and I want to leverage a partnership with an expert to make sure I'm making the best decision, that I have the smoothest transaction, and that not when, but
if that transaction goes sideways,
it's
you have
not if, but when things go sideways, I have an expert who's going to help me co-pilot this. Yeah. So for that reason, like, I'm not telling anyone they should ever go unrepresented. I think you should go represented. But what if someone's trying to save a few $1,000s and now they're going unrepresented? That's not good either.
Question for you.
So yes, go ahead.
Like, fast forward to like end of the year or something. Do you actually see this? Just use your gut feeling with no data to support it. Do you actually see this being like a disruptor in the marketplace? Could this really like have a ripple effect where like shit changes like in like by this time next year?
No, I would see this. I'm taking a wild guess here, right? I'm shaking up the magic 8-ball. I'm looking at it, and my magic 8-ball says we don't really hear or smell anything until 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be appeals, and look, NAR has so much money, and they're part of this lawsuit. They're being sued too. Their lobbying efforts are through the roof.
Let's just settle out of court for this.
So there's going to be arguments made on both sides of the aisle. It's pro-consumer. It's anti-consumer. Like, I just made arguments that it's anti-consumer. Literally, I made arguments that it'll be less people buy houses. It'll be people do buy houses, but now they're not being represented. So now the only person being represented is the seller because the seller's paying for it. Right? Those are arguments that you should be making, like why that's harmful to the consumer. And then there's someone else standing, but the law is the law is the law, and there's no competition. So then what does that mean? Do we need to introduce 2 other MLSs into each market? It's funny. We as lenders always get a little bit cantankerous when realtors like, I like to give out 3 cards, or I'm trained to give out 3 cards, but they don't do that with their own MLS system. They only have 1. Right? Like, come on now. We all know that 3 card statement's a hack and a joke. You can have 1 card that you can have 3 lenders that you give out, but 1 card, and then let your buyer know, look, there's a credit union and a bank on every corner, and there's an online lender on every Google search. But this is the person that I think would do the best job for you that I recommend, because they're going to be accountable to us. They're going to communicate to us, and they're going to make sure your offer gets accepted. So I find that a little bit funny that maybe that's what transpires. Maybe the outcome is now there has to be multiple listing services in each market. But it's something that loan officers and realtors and even consumers need to be aware of. Like, this is happening all around you right now. It's playing out in the courts. We won't really have a say, but if it goes even remotely to the way of the plaintiffs, it could absolutely uproot the way that this business has operated over the past century. And when I say this business, the business of buying and selling homes.
You know what I heard? An opportunity. If you're looking to sell your home, list it with TLOPonline.com.
Well, we're not even there yet,
I know,
John.
but we'll figure it out.
We will?
Hey, if we get 3 or 4 listings on there, we'll figure it out. Just come list with us.
I like that. I like where your head is going. That's typically not your role in this relationship, right? You're usually the cool guy.
Yeah, just sit in the back. But now I'm like, hey, come list with us. What if we did? What if?
What if? I mean, look, here's what I do know. Sticking your head in sand has never been the best strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to have head on a swivel, eyes wide open, ears wide open. Constantly be a witness to your surroundings, what's going on, what's happening in the news. And then there's an opportunity around every single corner. I mean, every market brings its own opportunity. It also brings its own challenge. So this is a challenge for many, but it's an opportunity for some. When I look at the mortgage landscape, it came out last week that this is the lowest amount of transactions that we've seen since like 1996.
Holy shit.
Yeah. What a phenomenal opportunity for those lenders who are out there making it happen, who are out there networking, who are out there building relationships, because you're doing it in one of the worst, quote unquote, markets that we've seen in 3 decades. Some people may see it as a negative, others, nothing but an opportunity. That's what's transpiring with these 3 lawsuits. Yes, it's a massive headache, hurdle, panic point for a lot of people in the real estate market. That's their industry. For others, they're just going like, look, I'm not the courts, I'm not the jury, I'm not the appellate court. I can't really say a whole lot. I can give my dues to NAR. I can go participate in various advocacy sessions that NAR does. I can sign my petitions. I can maybe send an email to my congressman or my 2 senators. But other than that, whatever the rules is, the rules is.
The rules is the rules is
and
the rules.
I can either fight against them or learn how to play within them. I'm going to encourage those people to play within them. If you're a loan officer, you should be following this, because your realtors are hearing it and maybe they're scared. Maybe together you can come up with ways that you all will not let this negatively impact your future business, your future relationship. But at the same time, we just dropped an episode on whether or not y'all need to be lead generating on your own, going consumer direct with some of your ad approach. Maybe even the contents within that episode changes over the next 9 to 18 months based on the outcome of suits like this. These are all things for us to be witnessing, to be following, and then figuring out, where could this be painful, but where's the opportunity? What's the hurdle I have to overcome? But once I overcome it, what's going to be the benefit that I can gain? And just follow along. But I'm sure if you wanted to learn more about this, subscribe to Housing Wire. Right? Housing Wire is where I get most of my news from.
DOB contributing all the time.
I have written for Housing Wire a couple times over the past year. I hope to write for them more next year, and I really anticipate going out and look forward to going out to their event in Arizona next year.
Ooh.
But yeah, if you're a member of TLOP Online, we have discounts to Housing Wire. But if not, it's not that expensive, and you get 5 to 7 articles daily emailed to you, and it keeps you in the know. If you want more information about this particular topic, go to Housing Wire right now, and the article is going to be up on their website. Or if you're already a member of Housing Wire, that means you're getting the emails. It's right in your inbox. Other things that you can look to do if you're looking to invest in your business, invest in becoming a better mortgage sales professional, y'all come join the TLOP community.
Come join the movement.
Yep, tloponline.com. We have 3 levels of membership. We have your basic membership, we have a premium membership, and we have a premium plus.
Plus.
And premium plus is the best bang for your dollar. If you're not investing in your business with us, I ask that you invest in your business elsewhere, whether it's with a coaching company, whether it's in your marketing efforts, or whether it's attending conferences. This is your business. This is your career. This is your livelihood. Y'all need to take yourself serious, and you need to invest in your future success. All we ask is if you love this show and you like what we're doing, check us out. We may be one of your better options. tloponline.com. Become a member today.
Word.
His name is John Coleman. My name is Dustin Owen. That is all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.